So you're trying to decide whether to use an online accounting software or a desktop version. How do you make your decision? Well, I think you should think of 3 criteria. The first is your need for the information. The second is the accessibility and control. And the third is the cost side of things. Now, if I think of the first one, your need for the reports, what sort of person are you? Are you the sort of person who gets envelopes and doesn't like to open them, puts all your paperwork to the side and doesn't need to look at regular reporting for your business? Monthly is fine, in which case maybe a desktop version of the accounting software would be fine. But if you're the sort of person who needs to check that your bank account is up to date, how much money you've got in the bank and exactly what's going on, then probably an online software is the best way to go. Your bookkeeper should be able to do either, use either version. It's not rocket science these days to be able to use an online software system or a desktop version. So it really depends on the sort of reports you need. Now, my personal view is a bookkeeper should be intelligently processing the work. They should be looking at the work and thinking what sort of reports are going to be useful for you. To me, even if you're happy to get the reports monthly, the work should be intelligently done and reliable. And regardless of which software package you use, obviously you need a good bookkeeper to be able to do that. But I think sometimes the online version works for people who are learning about their business. Is brilliant for when cash flow is tight, because you can keep an eye on what's going on in your business and make sure that you're entirely up to date. Fine. So moving on to the accessibility issues. Now, it's interesting this because I used the other day I had to upgrade my desktop software package that I use, and I had to have a disk, I had to log in, I had to use all my passwords, and it just seemed terribly old-fashioned to have a desktop version. It's fine, it will last for a year now, but the tricky thing about it is that my colleagues were on another version and were pestering me to upgrade my version of that software. And whilst it's not the end of the world, it's just it seems a bit old-fashioned. Now, having done that, the desktop version will be fine. It'll be fine for another year. But I think you should just watch out for this, because a couple of years ago I was wandering downstairs, cup of tea in my hand and my laptop, and I slipped. And actually, I ended up throwing the laptop. I saved the tea. I was worried about the wallpaper. But I saved the tea, but broke my laptop entirely. And what I ended up with was I had the database backed up, and I actually had the disk for the original accounting software. The problem was that when I loaded the disk into the new computer, I couldn't then register the software online because it had stopped being supported by the company who sold it to me originally. So even though I had the disk and the database, I was stumped and I lost a year's worth of data, and I can't tell you how annoying it was. And that wasn't because I hadn't backed up, it was because the software was no longer supported. So watch out for that. Now, the advantage, of course, with having an online software is that the software is being updated all the time, and you're not going to have any issues with if you throw the laptop down the stairs, you're going to still have your database. But, and this has happened to me, something can go wrong with the direct debit or the bank account so that the payment isn't made to the software provider, and your account can be suspended. And so you can try and log in to get your data, and then you're stumped because you can't get it, and that's really infuriating. The other issue is, of course, it relies on you having a good internet connection, and so sometimes if you're out in the coffee shop and you wanted to have a look online or to look at your data, you can't because you don't have access. So I would just think about that. Who would I ask to double check and what sort of thing that would work for me? I'd check again with your bookkeeper or your accountant and just see what's going to work for you, really. Is the security and safety of your laptop and the way you're going to hold it, is that going to work? How important is it for one person to be using the software? If you've got multiple people using the software, then you really got to be thinking about version control, and everybody needs to be on the same version. So I would have thought that an online software might be more appropriate. But if it's just you doing the accounts, you keep regularly updating your software, then desktop version might be absolutely fine. Last thing to consider is cost. Sometimes the banks give away free software, bookkeeping software, when you open their account, and that can be fine. The thing I would consider is that if you're buying a package and you're not really using all its, its functionality, do you really need to be spending an absolute fortune in one lump sum for a piece of software? You're getting the disc, you're uploading it, and it's a lump sum once a year. I mean, I know they'll probably allow you to pay it monthly, but it really, to me, the cost of these online versions are so much cheaper now. Your bookkeeper should be able to help you get a really good deal, or your accountant actually, for that matter. But what I wouldn't do is necessarily be going to buy the software from any other site. Get it from your bookkeeper or your accountant, because I think they could give you the best deal that you can possibly get. Overall, what would I say? Talk to your bookkeeper and decide on how important it is for you to have regular information and what is the most important thing for you. Some bookkeepers, and certainly we do this at Rosemary, we just buy one package for a desktop version, which means that our clients aren't having to pay for any software at all, and that works really well for those people who are happy to get their reports on a monthly basis. People who are using an online software, it's a regular online subscription that we can offer, and so that means that people are getting the data and getting it whenever they need.